What's up? I'm Noelle at Noelle's Notions, and this is Fame by the Flame with Kong Beats.
Let's go with it.
All right, Kong, so let's get into it. So you're young, but you're not new to the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've been at work for a while now. Let's kind of take it back before we get into all that you're doing right now. Let's go back to how you actually started producing music and making beats.
I started probably my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
That was I'm 19 now, so it was 5 years ago. And I started my inspiration really was I liked music. I was hella into music. And I basically just seen a couple producers out in the area, like June, Davo, Jabari with the A-Team and all that,
Mm-hmm.
And
Shout out crew.
I started making beats. I listened to a lot of Hobson. I saw he made his own beats, so that was kind of something that got me started. And then I didn't really start working with artists until 2 years ago, really. I really didn't take it seriously until then or see a future in it
Okay.
until then. But that's really basically it. I just did it by myself on my own. So.
Okay. And so now you mentioned June on the beat. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how he had an influence on you and what that looked like.
Yeah, his sound, first of all, really, it super influenced me because he was the biggest producer coming up around here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I am from Vacaville, so
Yeah.
I'm halfway between Sac and the Bay, so I relate. I get a lot of influence from both of those
Mm-hmm.
sides, and his sound influenced my sound, and then once I met him and I established a relationship with him, he taught me a lot, and I look up to him a lot
Awesome.
in many ways, yeah.
And so, like you said a little bit about being in Vacaville, you have kind of two different sounds, right? So you have the Bay and the Sac. So I feel like a lot of people who aren't as in tune with the music scene don't really understand the difference. Can you explain a little bit about kind of how
Yeah.
Sac and the Bay differentiate from each other?
Yeah, I'd say Bay Area, they got different backgrounds for sure.
Okay.
When I think of Bay Area music, I think of more influenced by the hyphy movement, more
Mm-hmm.
a lot more partying music. Out here, I take when I'm making a beat for an artist from the Bay, I treat it way differently than I would Sac.
Okay.
Sac, almost the tones of the beats, everything, the sounds you use, and the relationships I got with the people kind of determined how I went about who I produced for and how much.
So when you're producing music, is it just something that comes to you? Is it based off of a formula of the artist, where they're from, what they want? How, what does that look like?
A huge part is for sure the artist. I always gotta listen to them. I like to know their style, but at the same time, I like to put my own style in it.
Okay.
I don't ever want to give people a certain type of beat that they want. I want to have my type of beat.
Mm-hmm.
I want that because I feel like it's my duty just as much to match their style of music as it is to influence their style of music and keep it growing.
So what would you say is kind of you're Kong on the beats? What's your little bit of influence that you put into each and every piece that you put out?
If I had to pick something that really set me aside musically, sound wise, I really think I always have and I think I got unorthodox sounds kind of. I don't think a lot of people are using the sounds I'm using, but if I were to put it in terms for things most people would understand, I'd just say the vibe of the beats I put always have a good rhythm to them, and I can really I can make any style of music my style really.
Okay.
I can mix different genres and it'll still sound like my beat.
Yeah, well, and I mean, obviously you're doing something right because you're working with a lot of different artists, kind of from all different backgrounds and some really big names too. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the more recent collabs that you have in the works. So I know that you just linked up with Sage Gemini, and you're kind of looking into doing some stuff for him or with his artists. So what does that look like, or where do you think that's going to go into the future?
I started it. I see it going I'm trying to get closer and closer with him and his people. I respect his whole movement, his whole camp, and I started working with his artist Maddie 400, my bad. And I started all his like family members, relatives, all his people working on music. I fuck with them a lot. Jabari the Great, he like a huge, he hella helped me get tapped in with him. And I went over to Sage's house for a little work on some stuff with him. So I'm really just trying to, I'm going to get one with him soon. We're going to work on some stuff. We just talked about it, but we ain't really got a solid thing done yet.
All right. Well, fans will just have to stay tuned then for all the new stuff that you got coming out. And best way to connect with you right now is your IG, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. And I noticed that on your IG, you have a ton of pics of like you at different parties, like always popping up, right? So like,
I love to pop up.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so and the most recent pic I think is of you and like Mozzie. So you roll with Mozzie's Game Pretty Tough, and like how does that look like being on the other end of like going to shows and kind of seeing the music that's being produced actually like play live?
That's probably one of my favorite parts about like starting to get a name for myself is the respect you get when you are able to come, and like not many artists will really allow producers to come with them the way like Mozzie does. Mozzie bring the way he like presents his whole like performance. He always got all his people with him. He's for sure for the people, and like his whole camp paid me like hella respect for everything I've done for them. So it's always good for them, and like any artist, whenever I get to go to a show, it's always just super cool to see like the way the music hits the people, and not just be behind. You feel me? Like,
well, because like you said, like a lot of like the productions, like you're in the studio, so then to see it live, like to actually see the people like dancing to it, rocking out to it, it's like a totally different vibe. It's like kind of like from behind the scenes to on the scenes for sure. So what is, obviously you're not on the stage, but you produce the music that does go on stage for those artists that do perform. So what's the feeling that you get, let's say, when you complete like a project, like and then you give it to that artist? Like is it feel different every time now that you've been doing it so much? It's just kind of like second nature, like finishing something, like okay, check the box.
Yeah, like as far as sending beats out and stuff, it's really it's different. Artists do things differently, so really it's like it's not even ever the same. Sometimes you're waiting forever, sometimes you get it right there. I like being there when it's made though.
Okay.
That's for sure my favorite like method of making music, being in the studio working together on it.
And so what is maybe like a really memorable studio time that you have? Like I always like the behind the scenes that's in the studio, because I'm sure some wild ass shit goes down. So like what's your favorite memory, I guess, or one that's like sticks out the most?
I don't know if I really got a favorite memory, but there's definitely people who I vibe with a lot, and like all the times I used to lab with Young Meezy all the time, and Sack all the time. We'd always be out here working, and that's like someone who I can always have a solid session with. Like we can cook up stuff immediately, and you never know who's gonna come in and work with us, and we get stuff done very efficiently.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. I mean, I feel like it's definitely better like when you have a homie that you're working with versus like someone who is new or that you don't know if you vibe with them quite yet. And so I do also want to talk a little bit about your work with E40. So I know that like that's another artist that's well known in the Bay and in Norcal in general. So like, what's it like working with him, or how was it, producing?
E40, he that's one of the artists where I don't have as much of a personal connection. It's more like a professional connection. I met him through Cousin Feek, and Cousin Feek really lined me up with him, and I met Cousin Feek like probably 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And did a whole project with him under Sick With It Records, and then I produced probably my biggest song, So Cool, is by JT the Fourth, who's a Sick With It artist. So it was just like bound to happen that I'd work with 40. And Feek ended up like pulling the strings to get that to happen, and the three of us got a song coming out on one of his projects in the future.
Awesome, cool. Yeah. So fans will definitely have to stay tuned for that. And I know you have a lot actually that's coming out. So let's talk a little bit about, now we covered kind of how you came to be, but now let's talk about your future in the music industry. So 2019, that's gonna be a big year for you, right? So what you got in the works?
I'm getting ready for that for sure. I'm trying to be on as much as I can. Like, I just want to flood everything. I want every project you hear to have at least something from me on it.
Yeah.
And I want a huge emphasis on the quality of it. And then I'm doing my 2 projects for 2019. I'm gonna drop whenever I really decide to.
Okay.
But I got I'm gonna do one project that's more like a party music and more like a I guess ratchet like feel or whatever. And I'm gonna do one that's more like I feel like I'm gonna have more of an influence on like the musical aspect of it, and it's gonna be like for me, I always gotta get. It takes a while for me to get projects done because I gotta get artists. Like it's hard working as a producer. You can't like just make songs like rap on over them. I mean you can, but I don't. So I really it's really like a challenge for me to go out and get like the right people for the right songs, and that's what I'm working. That's like what's my biggest emphasis going into 2019 is, but like the end product's gonna be unmatched for that, I think.
Yeah.
And other than my own stuff, I'm really just trying to be on everyone's projects, work with bigger people, and step up my game like progressively.
Awesome. So it's cool that you're keeping, like, you're also doing the quantity, but you're keeping your quality as you go. What are some artists that you want to work with, or, you know, ones that we have maybe already talked about that you're in works with?
Ones I want to work with, especially, is Sage. That's someone who's been like, I feel like when I started making music, that's when he started popping, and that's like, I saw that a lot. So I was just around it. It's a huge influence. And then there's a lot of people I really want to get, like a big song with Mozzie. I want to get there's people who I don't really like see myself working with, but I want to. That'd be like YG maybe.
Yeah.
I want to get Kevin Gates, probably my favorite rapper of all time right now. So if I could work with him, that'd be fire. But as far as like around here, people I really maybe like G-Eazy. That's someone who I'd want to like. That I feel like that's a good medium between, like, it could be my style and it could still be more mainstream.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's cool to see kind of like the different artists that are popping up, and also like different artists that you said like can be working with your vibe but still have their own thing going at the same time. So besides June on the Beat, what are some other influences that you have when you like go to produce like a track?
I'd say I for sure, like, as far as other like producers who influenced me, I think all the people I started working with like came up with, like, my homie Halfway, he's in LA right now. He and I kind of started making beats around the same time, learning, and then Jabari the Great tapped me in with a lot of people, helped me like progress my sound. There's a lot of producers I look up to, like Architects, June, Devo. There's Coast Raw. Other than, like, there's nothing I really like go into like to get myself ready to work, but I just feel like no matter what environment I'm in, I'm gonna go crazy.
Awesome. Well, I know that fans are definitely excited to see all the stuff that you have in 2019. And if you guys haven't caught up on all the projects he has in 2018, and previous to that, you guys better tap in with him on social. What's another way to like find kind of like your call sheet of like all the songs that you are on or have your hands in?
Really, you can get me on like Apple Music.
Okay.
I got I got a SoundCloud, and on there I got like playlists of all the songs I produce. I just threw everybody's songs in there.
So, you obviously, you know, have a lot of projects, like you said, on Apple Music, your SoundCloud, where fans can all find that. But I'm really curious, what is your favorite? Like, what's your favorite track or project that you produced that you want fans really to tune into?
My favorite is probably, and it's probably my biggest, is So Cool.
Okay.
By JT the Fourth. It's featuring SOV. And I say that's my favorite because it's like, I think that really embodies my sound perfectly.
Okay.
And it's something like more mainstream that people, I think, more grabs more attention. And like, it's accomplished the most. It's done the most for me in my career, I think.
Yeah.
It's got like Camille picked it as a song of the week. I got a lot of artists that reached out for me because of that. And,
awesome. Yeah, so it's cool, kind of like what you're saying, like that song that you hold dearest to your heart has now gotten you a lot of other attention from other artists who now you're working with, and now you're doing big things in 2019, right?
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm always curious too, is there anything that you want fans to know about you that they don't know, or maybe something that's kind of like not really like well known about you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing and probably the most rare thing is that I'm like 100% sober.
Okay.
I don't do any drugs. I don't drink. I never have. I probably never will. I'm really kind of against it, but I'm not. You feel me? It's whatever. Do your thing.
Yeah, more like for yourself personally. Like you just don't vibe with it.
Yeah, I never felt a need to. I don't see it influencing my like art at all. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean, then you're always a sober driver.
Yeah,
it's good.
We getting there. We ain't gotta stop for wood.
Well, I mean, I really admire that. I think that's really cool because not only is like a personal decision, but it also just is better business, right? Like you don't gotta worry about you like slurring
I keep it
doing production. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Kong, for being on Fame by the Flame. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And always, Jay, you know, you keep it lit. I'm gonna labs. Well, fans, until next time, I'm Noelle at Noelle's Notions, and this is Fame by the Flame with Kong B.